In my attorney's office, she pushed a stack of phone records toward me. They showed 1439 unsuccessful text messages, evidence of 4 years of failed attempts to contact my children. My ex-wife claimed I abandoned our kids, but these documents, in black and white from the phone company, told a different story. I was preparing to prove her assertion impossible. I'm Nathan Cross, aged 42, and a civil engineer. This profession taught me the importance of documentation, trusting data, and never assuming anything works without proof. These principles safeguarded my bond with my children. Rewind 6 years. I had been married to Melissa for 11 years, and we had 2 kids, Oliver, then 7, and Sophie, 5. We lived in a typical suburban home, a 3-bedroom house in a good school district, owned 2 cars, and had a dog named Ranger. Despite the long work hours, I was always there. I coached Oliver's soccer team. Every school day, I styled Sophie's hair since she believed only I could create the perfect ponytail, despite our marriage's imperfections. Melissa and I had drifted apart over time, limiting our conversations to practical matters and the children, transforming us from partners into housemates who shared parental responsibilities. We were aware of this, but hadn't vocalized it yet. One Tuesday in March, I returned home early from a site inspection, discovering an unusual situation. My vehicle was in the workshop, so I drove a company car which wasn't normally parked in our driveway. Upon entering through the garage at 2 p.m., I heard voices I hadn't heard addressed to me for roughly 3 years, emanating from our bedroom. I hesitated in the hallway for half a minute, considering whether to storm in and confront them both, but my rational side urged me to collect information first. I took out my phone and began recording. I listened to the audio, then stealthily exited, climbed into our company vehicle, and pulled over nearby. Around 40 minutes passed, an unfamiliar man departed from my residence, entered a Mercedes, and drove off. I captured images of him, his car, and the license plate that same night. I maintained a normal facade, played with the children, prepared dinner, inquired about Melissa's day, to which she replied grocery shopping and running errands. She didn't mention any purchases on our credit card that day, so I nodded without comment. Over the subsequent 2 weeks, I accumulated evidence. A hidden security camera was installed in our bedroom, legally so as it was shared marital property within our state. Every lie he told when visiting during my work hours was meticulously recorded. His identity was Greg Hartman, a man who owned a chain of car dealerships, divorced with no children, aged 51. I uncovered this information from his license plate details. I too enlisted the services of a private detective, not for additional proof of the affair as I already had sufficient, but to ascertain if it was impacting my kids. The investigator corroborated my suspicions. Greg had been in contact with my children. Melissa presented him as my friend. He attended Oliver's soccer games, and he visited my house with my kids at least 8 times. Upon this revelation, I made up my mind to end things. However, I was determined not to act impulsively. Prior to selecting Patricia Lynn, a renowned family law expert known for her meticulous preparation, I consulted with 3 different divorce attorneys. She was costly, but she was indispensable. After examining my evidence, Patricia shared something that shifted everything. In custody cases, mothers often have an upper hand, especially with young children. Judges frequently assign primary custody to mothers unless there's a strong argument against it. In your case, mere proof of infidelity won't suffice. Instead, you need to demonstrate your superior parenting abilities. When I asked her what she meant, she said I should document everything from now on, every interaction with the kids, every instance where I'm the involved parent, and she isn't to create a record showing that I'm not just an aggrieved partner, but the parent these children require. So that's what I did. I started keeping detailed records. Every bedtime story read, meal cooked, homework session helped with, doctor's appointment attended, and receipts for everything I bought for the kids. I captured photos and videos of our shared moments, as I was previously managing Oliver's soccer team, thus having corroborating witnesses. I chose not to confront Melissa. Instead, I maintained a facade of normalcy. This may sound callous, but I required time to strategize, as divorce encompasses more than just emotions. It involves legal procedures, which I intended to handle methodically, similar to my engineering projects, with planning, data analysis, and contingencies. 3 months post-discovery of the affair, all matters were in order. Financial records were segregated, evidence was compiled, witnesses were identified, funds were moved into an unbeknownst to Melissa account for rent and personal upkeep during the divorce proceedings. Every detail was meticulously documented to ensure legitimacy. On a Friday evening following putting the kids to bed, I escorted Melissa into our living room, presenting her with the divorce documents. She gazed at them, then at me. "What's this?" I've been aware of Greg for months, but today feels like progress. Her expression went from surprise to fear, then something more resolute. "You knew about him too, yet you didn't mention it." I was being careful, ensuring I handled this correctly. She stood up, her papers crumbling in her hand. "You can't make decisions alone, Nathan, especially when they concern us and the children. The moment you introduced another man to our kids without consulting me, that's when she changed tactics." Her tears began to fall, admitting a mistake had been made. "I'm handling the situation regarding Oliver and Sophie. I've been contemplating them because I want to deal with things before they fully comprehend the circumstances." She negotiated, became angry, and cried excessively. My response was composed, as anticipated, having foreseen this discussion through Patricia's preparations. The following day, Melissa's demeanor shifted drastically. She turned distant and professional. Clearly, she had consulted someone, likely Greg or a lawyer, instructing me to vacate the house by the weekend's end. Expected as much, I had a 2-bedroom apartment secured, gradually moved my essential items over the past month. On Sunday, I packed the remaining belongings, hugged Oliver and Sophie. Explaining Daddy would temporarily reside elsewhere but would return soon, Sophie cried. Oliver inquired if it was due to him, which nearly shattered me, yet I maintained composure. Patricia had advised against instigating a custody battle initially, as the court would decide later. Taking them immediately might appear unbecoming. During the first week, I phoned home daily to converse with the kids. Melissa answered twice for brief conversations, while she didn't answer on other days. Messages were sent every morning and evening. Some messages indicated delivered status, others did not. During week 2, none of my calls were answered, texts were shown as delivered, but no replies were received. I made 3 visits to the house to see the children. The first time, Melissa opened the door and mentioned they were napping. In the second attempt, she said they were at her mother's house. On the third occasion, she instructed me to communicate through lawyers and shut the door in my face. I promptly contacted Patricia, and she filed an emergency motion for a temporary child custody arrangement. Judge allowed me 4-hour supervised visits on Saturdays at a family center, with a court-appointed supervisor present. This was when I realized Melissa was playing a different game than anticipated, causing my children to be monitored around me as if I posed a threat. Despite the embarrassment, I attended each Saturday for 4 hours, interacting with Oliver and Sophie, reading to them, and helping with art projects. The supervisor, Carol, reported that I was fitting, involved, and affectionate. However, there seemed to be an anomaly. The children appeared distant towards me initially. Sophie avoided eye contact for the initial hour, while Oliver persistently inquired about when he could leave. By the 3rd week, they began to thaw, but it was evident that someone had spoken to them previously. During our 4th monitored visit, Sophie uttered something that sent a chill down my spine. She was coloring and said, "Mommy says you no longer wish to reside with us as you have a new family." I maintained a composed tone. "Sophie, that isn't accurate. I long to be with you and Oliver more than anything. Mommy and I are trying to find a way to make that happen." Oliver glanced up from his Legos. "But you abandoned us." "Darling, I didn't abandon you. I left the house because Mommy and I can no longer live together, but I will never forsake you." The supervisor jotted down notes. I knew this would be included in her report. Following that session, I contacted Patricia. "She's estranging them, telling them I deserted them. Can you validate it?" I just did. The supervisor heard it. "That's a start, but we need more evidence. Keep recording every encounter." The temporary custody hearing was set for 2 months ahead. In the interim, I had 4 hours every Saturday and nothing else. I sent gifts to the house for the children's birthdays. Sophie's 6th birthday package was returned marked refused. Oliver's 8th birthday present never came back, though he didn't mention receiving it during our visits. I attempted calling the house phone. Blocked. I tried contacting Melissa on her cell. Blocked. I sent emails, which bounced back. She'd established a new email address without informing me, so I adjusted my approach. I sent texts through the messaging system and recorded their delivery times, as well as when they were blocked. I sent letters via certified mail to ensure proof of delivery. I kept every receipt and tracking number. Additionally, I started investigating parental alienation. It's a genuine occurrence that is legally recognized in many states. A parent systematically harms the child's bond with another parent using manipulation, false accusations, and blocking contact. Melissa's actions matched this pattern. Patricia introduced me to a forensic psychologist who specialized in custody cases, Dr. Ramona Patel. I paid for 3 sessions where she examined my relationship with the children, reviewed my records. Her assessment found no signs of danger from me and indicated that I was a victim of parental alienation. This evaluation cost $4,000 but proved valuable. The temporary hearing arrived. Richard Kowalski, Melissa's lawyer, depicted me as an overworked father who had emotionally detached from the marriage, implying neglect, and advocated for continued supervised visitation. Patricia presented my evidence in response. The incident, the deceit, my evidence of interaction with the children prior to separation. She provided Carol's reports demonstrating I was an active, suitable parent during visitation. Judge Barbara Hernandez, a woman in her 60s, scrutinized everything before delivering her verdict. She granted joint legal custody with primary physical custody to the mother, awarding Mr. Cross unsupervised visits every other weekend, starting Friday evening and ending Sunday evening, as well as 1 dinner visit per week. Although it wasn't full custody, it was a marked improvement over supervised visits. On the first unsupervised weekend, I collected the kids from Melissa at 6 in the evening. She handed me a set of rules, bedtimes, dietary restrictions, activities they were or weren't allowed to engage in. Without protest, I accepted the list. That weekend, Oliver barely spoke to me, while Sophie cried and asked for her mother twice. However, by Sunday, they had somewhat loosened up. We visited the park, prepared pancakes for breakfast, watched films in the evening. When I dropped off on Sunday, Sophie embraced me and expressed mixed feelings. However, the lack of contact resumed post-visit, as I couldn't get hold of them despite multiple attempts to call or text. No responses came from the house, and I found myself unable to contact Melissa for a good-night chat with the kids. I tried making extra time, offering to pick them up from school, even attending their activities, but all efforts were met with silence. Every attempt at communication was documented in my phone bill, a reminder of rejection. Screenshots of every blocked message and voicemail filled my phone as our regular Wednesday dinners with the kids were canceled one after another. Melissa would send me a message an hour prior, citing Sophie's illness or Oliver's heavy workload or forgotten school events. But after the 10th cancellation, I realized something was amiss. Patricia submitted a motion for contempt due to Melissa disregarding the court-ordered visitation, which resulted in a hearing. Melissa's attorney argued she was only being overly protective of the children, and I was rigid about timing. Judge Hernandez examined the cancellations, finding 17 instances in 4 months. He cautioned Melissa that custody orders are not recommendations. If violated, there would be repercussions. The cancellations ceased post-warning, but the alienation persisted further on. Alternatively, the children began providing reasons to avoid visiting my apartment. Oliver mentioned a large assignment. Sophie claimed she missed her friends. Melissa conveyed these statements with feigned compassion. I couldn't compel them if they chose not to join Nathan. I kept my composure and adopted a tactical approach. I was aware of her tactics. The children weren't independently concocting excuses. She was coaching them. During one instance, Oliver disclosed something that corroborated this. While we were gaming, he said, "Mom says we don't need to come here if we don't want to." I paused the game. "Did she truly say that?" He nodded. "She suggested if we feel uneasy, we can inform the judge." I maintained a neutral tone. "Friend, do I make you uncomfortable?" He looked down at his hands. "No, you're my father, then why would Mom say that?" I didn't know I recorded that discussion in an email to Patricia that night. She included it in our file. 8 months after the separation, the final custody hearing was set. By then, I had accumulated 18 months of evidence. Phone records showing over 1,000 text messages blocked, emails returned unread, certified letters signed for but ignored, a log detailing every canceled visit, missed call, and excuse given. Additionally, I had witness testimonies. The parents of Oliver's soccer teammate testified about my consistent involvement as a coach before the separation and my attempts to attend games, only to be told by Melissa that I was not welcome. Sophie's kindergarten teacher stated that I was active in the classroom before the divorce but was excluded afterward. Dr. Patel submitted her evaluation. Carol, the original supervisor, presented reports highlighting my competent parenting during our sessions. Even my sister testified, describing our close relationship with the children and my distress at being cut off by Melissa. Patricia constructed a robust argument, yet cautioned me prior to the hearing. Judges tend to be resistant to separating children from their main caregiver. While we have compelling evidence, this outcome isn't certain. The hearing was arranged for an entire day, with both parties presenting evidence, summoning witnesses, and making arguments. Judge Hernandez heard Melissa's testimony first. She wore a modest dress, applied minimal makeup, appeared as the ideal anxious mother. Her testimony was skillfully manipulative. She asserted that I had been emotionally unavailable throughout our marriage, that my workweek exceeded 60 hours and I barely communicated with the children, that I had been aloof and remote even when at home, that she had endeavored to save the marriage but I had declined counseling and filed for divorce without prior notice. Then she made her key claim. She alleged that after I relocated, I had scarcely tried to reach out to the children. She lamented missed visits, overlooked birthdays, and prioritized her career over her children. Her voice quivered as she expressed, "I yearn for Nathan to be part of their lives, but he needs to desire that connection himself. I can't compel a relationship he seems uninterested in fostering." This assertion, delivered with dramatic sincerity, was nothing more than a lie. Kowalski, her attorney, questioned, "Has Mr. Cross consistently made efforts to see the children?" Initially, yes, but gradually he proved less dependable. He often canceled plans, failed to call when promised, and overlooked significant events. I felt an urge to stand up and challenge her credibility at that moment. Patricia placed a comforting hand on my arm. "Let her speak. We'll discredit this." Melissa continued for another 20 minutes, portraying herself as a devoted mother trying to shield her children from a father who had withdrawn emotionally. By the time she concluded, some people in the courtroom were looking at me with disdain. Then it was Patricia's turn for cross-examination. "Mrs. Cross, you stated that Nathan seldom tried to reach the kids, correct?" "Yes. How would that be if he was attempting contact, given you didn't block his number?" Melissa looked surprised. "I never blocked his number." Patricia moved towards the evidence table and picked up a substantial file. "Your Honor, I request to introduce Defense Exhibit A. These are phone records from Nathan's mobile carrier covering the time span from March 15th 2 years ago until now." Judge Hernandez acknowledged. "Carry on." Patricia passed a copy to Melissa and Kowalski, then displayed a spreadsheet on the court screen. "This document reveals 1,439 attempted text messages from Nathan's phone to yours, all marked as blocked by recipient. Could you clarify that?" Melissa looked pale. "Indeed, there must be some error. Is it also incorrect that Nathan's number appears on your blocked contacts list? We obtained your phone records through a subpoena." Kowalski rose from his seat. "Your Honor, I object to this unexpected testimony. We haven't received these records during the discovery process." Patricia didn't skip a beat in response. "We delivered the phone records 3 weeks ago, Your Honor. They're cataloged as our Exhibit A through E in our index." Judge Hernandez consulted his file. The records were indeed provided. Objection denied. "Mrs. Cross, please address the question." Melissa glanced at her attorney before returning her gaze to Patricia. "I might have blocked him at some point. I'm not entirely sure when." "You can't recall blocking the father of your children from reaching them for 18 months. He was harassing me, continually calling and sending hostile messages." Patricia produced another document. "Here are all the texts Nathan sent you during that period. Shall I read them out loud? Here's one from June 23rd. Hey, Melissa, just wanted to wish the kids good night. Can they call me?" Does that sound threatening to you? A pause followed. Patricia persisted. "Regarding an incident from August 2nd, Sophie's birthday is approaching next week. The question was if it would be acceptable for you to take her out for dinner on her exact birthday despite not being your assigned day." Melissa reacted negatively, saying harassment. However, upon further discussion about context, the conversation shifted. You had previously testified that Nathan missed visits and was unreliable. But in reality, 17 Wednesday dinner visits were canceled over a span of 4 months. It wasn't clear who initiated those cancellations. The children weren't well or had other obligations. The question then arose, who communicated these cancellations to Nathan? Your response was that you did so. Then it was clarified if Nathan ever refused to take the children when they were available. Melissa hesitated but admitted that he didn't. Furthermore, it was asked if Nathan ever missed a scheduled weekend visitation, to which she said no. However, there were other matters brought up like whether Nathan attended Oliver's soccer games before separation, and he did. Additionally, it was questioned if he coached the team, and the answer was affirmative. Lastly, it was asked if he attended Sophie's kindergarten classroom events, to which the response was sometimes. Patricia then produced more documents, according to Sophie's teacher, Mrs. Teacher's name. Yes. Melissa seemed uncomfortable. "Well, yes, I suppose so. Nathan actively participated in multiple parent-teacher conferences, volunteered for several classroom events, and accompanied 2 field trips prior to the separation. That sounds like more than just occasionally, wouldn't you agree?" Kowalski questioned. Did you inform Nathan that he was not allowed at Oliver's soccer matches after the separation? I assumed it would be perplexing for the children. Was Nathan legally entitled to attend those soccer games? She didn't respond. Mrs. Cross, did Nathan have the legal right to attend his son's public soccer games? She was asked quietly. Yes, she replied softly. But you instructed him not to show up. I tried to shield them from potential disputes. Was there ever any conflict at these matches? She was asked again. No, but... So you prevented a father from watching his son play soccer, not due to any actual issue, but because you thought he shouldn't be present? Kowalski protested again. Judge Hernandez overruled him. Patricia persisted in questioning. The topic at hand is regarding the packages Nathan sent. What transpired with those on the children's birthdays? I can't seem to recall. Patricia presented certified mail receipts. It appears that a package was delivered to your address for Sophie on her 6th birthday, but it was refused. Who refused that delivery? Melissa fidgeted in her seat. I don't seem to remember that. The Postal Service has your signature on the refusal form, according to Patricia. Another pause ensued. As Patricia continued to present evidence, such as emails allegedly unread by you which bounced back due to a modified address, unreturned phone calls, and blocked school events, Melissa's narrative began to unravel. All claims about Nathan being an absent father were methodically disproven. Finally, Patricia summoned Dr. Patel to the stand. The psychologist testified about parental alienation, identifying the specific pattern Melissa had employed. She asserted in her professional viewpoint that Melissa intentionally and methodically sought to damage the kids' bond with their father. The court adjourned for lunch. Patricia and I settled in a conference room further down. She appeared content. What do you think about how things are going? I inquired. It's better than anticipated. Her testimony disintegrated entirely. However, we still need to secure a victory this afternoon. After lunch, I took the stand. Patricia instructed me to outline my relationship with Oliver and Sophie prior to separation. I detailed coaching soccer, styling Sophie's hair, helping with homework and bedtime stories. I maintained a level voice, sticking to facts. Then she questioned about post-separation events. I elaborated on the blocked calls, canceled visits, and gifts sent back. I discussed attending supervised visitations every week without fail, never absent once. Even when it was embarrassing to have someone monitor my interactions with my own children, as if I were a criminal. Tricia questioned, why were you so thorough with your documentation? As an engineer, I prioritize facts and data and understood the need for evidence to substantiate events when proving them. What do you aspire for your children? I desire they comprehend that I never abandoned them. I wish them to recognize my daily struggles on their behalf. Additionally, I yearn to be a father to them fully and completely, as I was before this predicament commenced. Kowalski scrutinized me, aiming to portray me as controlling or fixated for maintaining extensive records. I remained composed, asserted that documentation isn't obsession, it's protection. He proposed I focused excessively on winning rather than the children's welfare. I met his gaze. For my kids, knowing their father loved and never deserted them is what matters most. That's what I have been striving for. The final testimony came from Oliver, a 9-year-old summoned to testify in a custody case. It became necessary for Patricia to demand a direct response from him. Judge Hernandez tenderly inquired. He was asked if he felt secure with both parents, to which he affirmed. He was questioned if he desired to spend time with me, and again he agreed. Upon being asked if anyone had instructed him what to say, Oliver glanced at Melissa, then at me, then at the judge. The mother mentioned that the father no longer wanted us but still attempted contact. Thus, I remained uncertain about whom to trust. That statement, in essence, mirrors the sound of parental alienation from a 9-year-old's voice. Judge Hernandez posed a few additional queries before dismissing Oliver. Melissa wept, and I held back tears. Both lawyers delivered their closing arguments. Kowalski contended that although there were some communication problems, Melissa had primarily cared for the children, and their stability should be given priority. In Patricia's view, any semblance of stability was futile if it stemmed from deceit and control, and the kids deserved a connection with both parents, which Melissa consistently obstructed. Judge Hernandez promised to scrutinize all proof and render a verdict within fortnight. The subsequent fortnight were the most agonizing of my existence. I adhered to my visitation schedule, interacted with the children, endeavored to maintain normalcy, but I remained preoccupied by Oliver's testimony. I was unsure who to trust. 12 days post-hearing, Patricia telephoned me. When she broke the news, "You need to take a seat," I sat down. "You have been granted primary physical custody, Nathan. Melissa is initially allowed supervised visitation with the potential for standard visitation upon compliance with court orders and participation in co-parenting counseling. I remained silent for a while. Repeat that. You have one full primary custody. The judge's written ruling spanned 11 pages. She methodically debunked every assertion made by Melissa. She referenced phone records, blocked messages, rejected gifts, and patterns of estrangement. She wrote that Melissa displayed troubling tendencies to put her own feelings above the children's bond with their father, and that the evidence unequivocally points towards a pattern of parental alienation that must not persist. She acknowledged that my records had been vital. Mr. Cross's detailed documents supplied unbiased, verifiable evidence that contradicted the mother's account. Without these records, the court would have been compelled to make judgments based on contrasting statements instead of facts. The custody transfer occurred the ensuing weekend. I journeyed to the residence, my former residence, to retrieve Oliver and Sophie. This time they weren't merely visiting, they were returning home. Melissa opened the door, her eyes glistening with tears. For a fleeting instant, I almost felt compassion for her. Reminded of the blocked calls, deceit, and 18 months without my children, she whispered, "Your belongings are packed." Oliver and Sophie descended with suitcases. Sophie seemed puzzled, while Oliver appeared frightened. I sank to their eye level. "Children, you'll be living with me from now on. Your mother will continue seeing you weekly as before, but primarily you'll reside here." Sophie's lip quivered. "Why?" "The judge deemed this arrangement more suitable, but don't worry, it'll be all right, I assure you." Melissa turned away. I filled my truck with their possessions. As we exited the driveway, she was standing in the doorway watching our departure. I had prevailed, yet it didn't feel like a triumph. It seemed more like survival. The first few months were challenging. The kids were adapting to a new way of life. Oliver displayed anger and misbehavior at school. Sophie suffered nightmares. We sought help with therapy, both individual and family sessions. Gradually, things got better. I registered them in their previous schools to keep them close with their friends. Maintaining the same rules and routines as Melissa had provided continuity. Collaborating with my company, my work hours were adjusted for school drop-offs and pickups. Supervised visitation by Melissa began a month post-custody transfer. She interacted with the kids under supervision, similar to what I'd done. I didn't find pleasure in that switch. I merely wanted her to grasp the impact of her actions. Compliance and co-parenting counseling for 3 months led to an expansion of her visitation to unsupervised. After 6 months, she had every other weekend. The children adapted, loving both of us as they should have been from the beginning. A year following custody, I was putting Sophie to bed. At 7 now, she looked up at me and said, "Dad, I'm sorry for believing Mom when she said you didn't want us." My throat constricted. In her youth, Sophie was unaware of the circumstances, which wasn't her fault. However, I ought to have foreseen that she wouldn't abandon us. I kissed her forehead, conveying that what mattered was she now understood, never to question it again. That very conversation made every moment of documenting, every penny spent on lawyers, and every embarrassing supervised visit valuable. This narrative isn't shared for sympathy or to belittle my ex-wife. Melissa and I maintain a functional co-parenting relationship now. She has sought help, accepted her mistakes, and we both prioritize what's best for Oliver and Sophie. The story is told to you if you find yourself in a comparable situation. Document everything. Every call, every message, every visit cancellation, every lie. Control your emotions and construct your case as if building a legal fortress. The court system may not always side with fathers in custody disputes, so be twice as prepared and professional. Do not let anger take hold. Improve, strategize, and validate. My children are 11 and 9 at present. They're flourishing. Oliver is into soccer and aspires to follow his father's footsteps in engineering. Sophie excels in competitive gymnastics and consistently achieves straight A's. They are well aware of the love their parents have for them, erasing any lingering doubts about my desire for them. A folder containing phone records remains in my office file cabinet. It holds 1439 blocked messages as a constant reminder that truth, when accurately recorded, is stronger than any lie, and occasionally justice does prevail.